Hello and welcome. You're watching India Today. This special broadcast from Kedarnath with me, Ashutosh Mishra. Narendra Modi was back in Kedarnath. This was his 5th visit as Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Modi answers Kedarnath's Bulawa. Shiva Shrine opens arms for Prime Minister Modi. Holy pilgrimage for a brave India.
शंकराचार्य जी की समाधि एक बार फिर और अधिक दिव्य स्वरूप के साथ हम सबके बीच है.
On Modi's playlist, Namo Namo Ji Shankara. Prime Minister in Kedarnath.
Prime Minister offered prayers at Kedarnath Temple and reviewed the several development projects. Prime Minister also inaugurated infrastructure projects to the tune of rupees 400 crore and vowed to boost the religious tourism in the hills. Here is our ground report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Kedarnath darshan filled with devotion and symbolism. The Prime Minister touched down at Kedarnath early Friday morning and immediately made his way to the Kedarnath Dham. It's his 5th visit to Kedarnath after becoming Prime Minister. Narendra Modi was seen performing the Rudrabhishek. He performed the Aarti, the Jalabhishek and the Rudrabhishek, meditating in the Sanctum Sanctorum and also performing Parikrama of the divine Himalayan shrine.
गोवर्धन पूजा के दिन केदारनाथ जी में दर्शन पूजन करने का मुझे सौभाग्य मिला है. बाबा केदार के दर्शन के साथ ही अभी मैंने आदि शंकराचार्य जी की समाधि स्थान वहां कुछ पल मैंने बिताए. एक दिव्य अनुभूति का वो पल था.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi did not land empty-handed at Kedarnath. He gifted the state a slew of development projects, including at the temple complex.
साथियों, हमारी उपनिषदों में आदि शंकराचार्य जी की
Addressing a large gathering of seers and devotees, Prime Minister lauded the Uttarakhand government for boosting the revival of the Kedarnath Temple after the 2013 floods wreaked havoc and damaged large parts of the complex.
जो लोग यहां आते थे वो सोचते थे कि क्या अब ये हमारा केदार धाम या हमारा केदारपुरी फिर से उठ खड़ा होगा क्या? भीतर की आवाज कह रही थी ये पहले से अधिक आन बान शान के साथ खड़ा होगा.
The Prime Minister also announced that construction work was underway and the Char Dhams, Badrinath, Dwarkadhish, Jagannath Puri and Rameshwaram would be connected by road and boost religious tourism.
आज उत्तराखंड की सरकार यहां विकास के महायज्ञ से जुड़ी है, पूरी ताकत से जुड़ी है. 4 धाम सड़क परियोजना पर तेजी से काम हो रहा है. चारों धाम हाईवे से जुड़ रहे हैं.
The Prime Minister made a promise to locals to boost tourism and ensure that no local feels the need to move to cities.
जिस प्रकार से उत्तराखंड के छोटे छोटे स्थानों पर प्रकृति की गोद में होम स्टे का नेटवर्क बन रहा है। सैकड़ों होम स्टे बन रहे हैं। माताएं, बहनें और लोग भी जो यात्री आते हैं वे भी होम स्टे को पसंद करने लगे हैं। रोजगार भी मिलने वाला है, स्वाभिमान से जीने का अवसर भी मिलने वाला है।
From Ram Temple in Ayodhya to Kashi Corridor and Bodh Circuit, Prime Minister talked about spirituality and development under one umbrella while speaking at Kedarnath. PM Modi offered prayer at Lord Kedarnath Temple and unveiled statue of Lord Jagadguru Shankaracharya. Prime Minister emphasized the significance of Shankaracharya, how he united the religiously divided country with his all efforts by establishing Math and Jyotirlingas. In Kedarnath, with Pradeep Gupta, this is Ashutosh Mishra for India Today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveiled a statue of Adi Jagadguru Shankaracharya in Kedarnath. PM Modi also sat in meditation at the foot of this statue, paid rich tributes to Jagadguru Shankaracharya, calling his life an inspiration.
Adi Shankaracharya's legacy standing tall in the hills of Kedarnath. This is Prime Minister Modi's tribute to the great philosopher during his visit to Kedarnath. Prime Minister Modi unveiled a 12-foot statue of Adi Shankaracharya, who played a key role in reviving Hinduism in the country. The Prime Minister was seen meditating at the foot of the statue for a while.
शंकराचार्य जी की समाधि एक बार फिर और अधिक दिव्य स्वरूप के साथ हम सबके बीच है।
The Prime Minister unveiled this massive statue after the previous tribute to Shankaracharya was washed away in the 2013 floods that wrought havoc in the temple town. Adi Shankaracharya was a Kerala-born Indian mystic and philosopher of the 8th century who attained awakening at an early age. Prime Minister Modi remembered Shankaracharya's preachings that continue to render a spiritual path to many.
अपने इतने कम समय में उन्होंने भारत के भूगोल को चैतन्य कर दिया, भारत के लिए नया भविष्य गढ़ दिया। उन्होंने जो ऊर्जा प्रज्वलित की वो आज भी भारत गतिमान बनाए हुए है। शंकराचार्य जी ने भारत की चेतना में फिर से प्राण फूके और हमें हमारी आर्थिक परमार्थिक उन्नति का मंत्र दिया।
This tall Shankaracharya statue is made of chlorite schist stone, known for its resistance to rain, sunshine and harsh climate. A total of 120 tons of stone was procured for the carving of this statue.
The process started in the year 2020, August, and I made a model of 25 inches stone sculpture to the Prime Minister of India. It was presented on September 2020.
The unveiling of this tribute was streamed live at the 12 Jyotirlingas and Shankaracharya mutts across the country. A grand cultural program was also held across the nation, including at the 4 dhams, Badrinath, Dwarka, Puri and Rameshwaram. With Ashutosh Mishra at Kedarnath, Bureau Report, India Today.
Prime Minister Modi is a many-faceted personality, and when it comes to spirituality and devotion, take a look on his 2019 visit in the temple town.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his hermit avatar. On 19th of May 2019, Prime Minister Modi emerged from a cave in Kedarnath after a long meditative spell. He was miles away from the election frenzy of Varanasi, his constituency.
वर्तमान के हिंदुस्तान के वातावरण से पूरी तरह बाहर था, अलिप्त था, यहीं खोया हुआ था, न कोई कम्युनिकेशन रखा था, न कोई अपने आप में था। यहाँ का जो डेवलपमेंट का मेरा मिशन है उसमें प्रकृति, पर्यावरण और पर्यटन हर प्रकार से संभाला जाए।
The 17-hour-long meditation took place in a cave with frugal amenities, which housed a wooden cot, a small window with a direct view of the Himalayan shrine, and a telephone. But this was not the first time Narendra Modi became a hermit.
हिमालय की दुनिया में चल पड़ा, बहुत कुछ भटका, बहुत कुछ घुमा, दुनिया देखी, और ये सब 18-20 साल 22 साल की उम्र में ही करता रहा मैं.
The Prime Minister is also known to have spent 5 years of his life as a hermit at an ashram near the Kedarnath shrine. He has often spoken about the deep connection with the Himalayas and the discovering of his guiding force.
इस धरती से हमारा एक विशेष नाता भी रहा है, तो आने का मन कर जाता है.
Prime Minister Modi has led ascetic lives before he devoted himself to politics. But there are people who recognized his inner calling and have been heard to refer to the Prime Minister as a Rashtra Rishi, national sage.
देश के महान सपूत को राष्ट्र ऋषि का गौरव सम्मान देते हुए स्वयं को सम्मानित महसूस किया, उसके लिए भी आप सब साक्षी बने हैं. पुनः मोदी जी को हम एक राष्ट्र ऋषि के रूप में गौरवान्वित महसूस कर रहे हैं, उनको सम्मानित करके.
मुझे पता नहीं था, बाबा ने सरप्राइज दे दिया. ब्रह्म शांति, सर्वभौम शांति.
The hermit in Narendra Modi has had fewer and fewer opportunities of coming out. And since 2019, with even a bigger mandate, Modi, the leader of India, has had to perforce keep Modi the hermit out of the picture. All for the cause of country, which, as he keeps reminding Bharat, comes before everything else.
Kedarnath has been transformed after the destructions left behind 2013 flash flood. It was Prime Minister's effort and solely focusing on the redevelopment that now the holy shrine back again to its glory.
The majestic Himalayas, the mighty glaciers, and a holy shrine. Kedarnath weaves beauty and sentiment alike. But a devastating flash flood wreaked havoc in 2013. And left footprints hard to forget. Now, years later, the holy shrine is all decked up. Prime Minister Narendra Modi offered prayers to Lord Shiv and also unveiled the statue of Jagadguru Shankaracharya. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit this year is significant as it has his initiative to rebuild Kedarnath after the 2013 tragedy.
People, praise Prime Minister Modi because he has been personally monitoring the development projects, rebuilding Kedarnath after 2013 devastation.
2013 के बाद जब हमने 2015 में ये धाम देखा था तो ये काफी नष्ट हो चुका था, लेकिन उनके प्रयासों के बाद यहाँ काफी आपका क्या कहते हैं बदलाव हुआ है और काफी विकास हो चुका है.
For the people of Kedarnath, the transformation after the destruction is unbelievable. Bridges rebuilt, concrete roads constructed, and shelters for pilgrims remade. Kedarnath is alive once again.
महाराज ये बताएं, 2013 में हमने बहुत कुछ यहाँ पर देखा, तब से लेकर 21 में लगभग ये 7-8 साल कितना बदला केदारनाथ?
बहुत बदल गया. ये देखो ना, नवनिर्माण काम हो रहा, मोदी जी का जो ड्रीम प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है बहुत सुंदर हो रहा है, उससे कोई दिक्कत नहीं उसमें.
Entire foot track from Gaurikund to Kedarnath was swept away in the 2013 deluge. Now, a concrete track has been prepared to facilitate pilgrims at Kedar Valley.
Administration, the SDRF, the Mountaineering Institute, Army, all agencies were roped in to ensure a proper trek is made before pilgrimage. resumes post devastation. And now, since the Prime Minister is visiting this place, everything is now being decorated to welcome and greet the Prime Minister, as he has gifted various development projects to this holy shrine.
Kedarnath now also has a sound health facility. A 4-bed dedicated hospital to treat COVID-19 and hypothermia patients has been set up. With oxygen cylinders and reserve oxygen concentrators, the hospital is prepped up to tackle emergencies.
We have new oxygen concentrators.
Was it brought recently post-COVID?
Yes. It is brought recently post-COVID, and we have few oxygen new cylinders. Okay.
And there are also oxygen backup cylinders kept inside these hospitals. Here, if I could tell Pradeep Gupta to pan the camera, these are the reserve oxygen cylinders. Besides the oxygen concentrator, as we've seen during the COVID second wave, the kind of tragedy unfolded. All this hospital, yes, at 11,000 altitude, 11,000 feet altitude, these arrangements have been made in place.
Doctors at this facility have only the Prime Minister to thank for the infrastructure development at Kedarnath.
The government has been very supportive and very kind, and PM Modi is very directly looking at the health facilities in the Kedarnath.
With the efforts of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Uttarakhand government, the majestic Kedarnath is now back to its original glory.
It was more than an uphill task to rebuild Kedarnath post-2013 tragedy. Prime Minister Modi's personal intervention and his initiative ensured rebuilding of all the infrastructure here in the holy shrine of Kedarnath. Every year, thousands of the pilgrims come from different parts of the country and all across the world. That's the Prime Minister's initiative to rebuild Kedar Valley. At Kedarnath, with Pradeep Gupta, I'm Ashutosh Mishra for India Today. Majestic and divine Kedarnath Temple is and will be haunted by 2013 destructions and devastation. To understand the scale of reconstruction, here is the report from our archives about 2013 Kedarnath floods.
हाँ 15 तारीख शाम से ही काफ़ी बारिश शुरू हो गई थी और हम लोगों का पूरा बचपन और युवावस्था जो है वो नदी के किनारे गुजरी है। तो एक था हम लोगों के मन में कि यार फ्लैश फ्लड आता है और धीरे धीरे एक झटके के बाद पानी का लेवल कम होने लगता है, लेकिन वो 16th कंटिन्यूस बारिश चलती रही और हमें लग रहा था कि शायद अब पानी कम हो जाएगा, अब पानी कम हो जाएगा। उसी चीज़ को हम मॉनिटर कर रहे थे, लेकिन 16th नाइट में उस दिन हमारे होटल में कम से कम 120 गेस्ट थे। मैंने डिनर के बाद उनसे मीटिंग की और उनसे कहा कि भाई मुझे लग रहा है कि पानी बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ रहा है, कुछ खतरे का अंदेशा मुझे हो रहा है। लगभग 7 बजे के करीब हमारे बिल्डिंग का एक पार्ट कोलैप्स हो गया और उसके 2-3 घंटे के बाद एक दूसरा ब्लॉक था, वो भी कोलैप्स हो गया।
It was in June 2013 when the state of Uttarakhand was hit by the worst natural disaster of recent times, and the day still haunts the memories. Widespread and heavy rains led to flash floods in all the major river valleys of the state, wiping settlements and destroying lives. The world remembers the catastrophe as Kedarnath floods, where more than 5,000 people were reported to have died and thousands had gone missing. Over 4,200 villages of Uttarakhand were gravely affected by the devastation. It is believed that the 2013 floods were the worst natural calamity to hit India since the tsunami of 2004. Death and destruction caused by the flash floods was unprecedented across the state of Uttarakhand.
MI 26 वाला बड़ा वाला है ये, इसको बोलते हैं 26 MI, ये वाला है वो ये गोचर रुकते हैं वहाँ उतरे थे तब वहाँ इन लोगों ने बहुत सप्लाई किया ना, हमको तो वो लाए, मैंने हेरिटेज वाला लाया था वहाँ से ऊपर केदारनाथ से, मैंने हिमालय वाले जो है ना उन्होंने हमको बैठाया गुप्त काशी में छुड़ाया।
Between 13th and 17th of June 2013, Uttarakhand received an unusual amount of rainfall. This led to the melting of the Chorabari glacier and the sudden surge of the river waters in the area. The worst hit was the Kedarnath Valley with its 8th century temple dedicated to Lord Shiva. On 16th of June, the combined waters and sludge, the overflowing Mandakini and Saraswati hit Kedarnath. And a day later, the Chorabari lake, 6 kilometers uphill, burst its banks. Within minutes, carrying huge amounts of silt and rocks, the muddy waters rushed downhill, destroying everything that stood in its path. Kedarnath, the temple and town, bore the brunt of that flash flood, but the ancient shrine survived. Some say a massive boulder blocked the path of the water and saved the temple from being washed away. The surroundings of the Kedarnath Temple suffered heavy damage. Every building in the complex was either washed away or buried under the sludge. According to pilgrimage records, there were 26,000 people in Kedar Valley on June the 16th, and the official death figure of 800 given out by the government is considered to be very conservative. It is generally believed that the actual death toll was much, much higher. In many ways, 8 years after the disaster, Kedarnath is still trying to recover from its worst nightmare, because memory of it still survives.
That's it for now in this special broadcast from Kedarnath. This is Ashutosh Mishra. Keep watching India Today.
Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is back. The Hollywood action star features in Red Notice, an action-packed heist flick that has just dropped. It happens to be Netflix's most expensive movie ever made. It also stars Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds. The film has already hit theaters in the United States and is all set to drop onto Netflix from November the 12th. Here is all about Red Notice. And as Red Notice drops, India Today is the only channel to have interviewed The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. The Hollywood superstar spoke to me at length about the new film, his love for India, for Bollywood, his huge fame in India as a wrestler, and very much more. Here's that exclusive interview with me. Nothing I say is ever going to be enough to introduce the star who joins me today from the very pinnacles of professional wrestling that earned him a truly global following. He is today the world's highest paid actor with huge films, the careers of other stars, and many reputations resting on his very broad shoulders. And now he's the frontman on what is said to be Netflix's biggest budget feature film, Red Notice, that's out very soon. Really good to welcome Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, here on India Today. Always a pleasure, Dwayne. Welcome. Thanks for being with us. I've seen the trailer. Can't wait to watch the film. Very, very exciting. But what about Red Notice got you excited, Dwayne?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me on, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I owe you dinner now after that. Thank you. I really appreciate it. What got me excited about Red Notice was the originality of the story, was the opportunity to, I mean, yes, it's Netflix's biggest investment in a film, which is great. But more importantly than that, I think, is the originality of the movie, and also, without ruining it for your viewers, there's a surprise. There's a surprise in the movie that really caught my attention, and the convergence of making something original, big scale, global, and with a wonderful surprise for the audience. That is the twist of all twists. I was in. And, you know, my criteria for making movies these days is two things. Am I going to love making the movie? And just as important, are people going to love the movie itself. So I think we checked the boxes, yes, on both of those for Red Notice.
Dwayne, this is going to be your third film. This is your third film with Rawson, Marshall Thurber after Central Intelligence and Skyscraper, big action films. Was it everything you hoped it would be? We're going to have to wait for the twist, obviously, but was it everything you'd hoped it would be?
It really was. And thank you for asking that question. This is my third movie with Rawson. He is, and for your viewers, Rawson is in a real elite group of cadre of directors in Hollywood who are their original writers and directors of the script. There's Chris Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, and certainly Rawson Thurber. Big action, global action, but original from beginning to end and being the sole writer. The movie was everything that I had hoped to be, and to be honest with you, more. Because when I signed on, it was just me and Rawson, and with this great idea for a movie. Then came on Ryan Reynolds, then came on Gal Gadot, then came on this amazing cast all together. And the chemistry with Ryan and I really jumps off the screen. Then you add Gal Gadot to the mix, everything jumps off the screen. So that's why I say it was more than I expected in the best way.
Tell us a little bit more about that chemistry. I was going to ask you actually about, the way you play off Ryan and Gal. It's very much there in the trailer, so I can only imagine how much more of it we're going to see in the movie.
You know, Ryan is known around the world to be a very funny guy, and very entertaining. And he brought his A game to Red Notice. And I've known Ryan for 20 years, and the chemistry that we have, you know, even though you might be friends with somebody and know them, chemistry isn't always a guarantee. And especially on the big screen where everything is magnified and where audiences, they know when something is real in terms of the chemistry, and they know when they know these guys are really having fun, or I don't know, they really like each other in real life.
Yeah.
The chemistry we had was spectacular. It really jumps off the screen. You have great action in a movie, and you really come up with the comedy of it. And you have it converge in the middle. And if you're lucky enough, and you know, sometimes when that happens and it just hits that perfect moment, you wind up making a great movie.
No, it looks really good in the trailer, I have to be honest. But, you know, Dwayne, this is Netflix's biggest budget feature film. And I really wanted to ask you, you're no stranger to big budget films, but, you know, given the past couple of years, the pandemic, has there been, you know, what does it feel like to shoulder, you know, the burden of such great expectations? You know, the biggest budget film by Netflix.
Well, considering how big Netflix already is in terms of their global presence, certainly in India, we're well aware of the influence and the numbers coming out of the country. As a producer of the movie too, as well, it's something that you shoulder up with the studio, you shoulder up with your other producers, and you really go to work. And we didn't set out to make the biggest movie in Netflix history, but here we are for a number of reasons. And the main thing we could do is just deliver a great movie, and that is it. So when you talk about, I think, probably pressure and what's on the shoulders, I will take that on, because I do have confidence in the team and people who I've surrounded myself with, who are a lot better and smarter and greater skill sets than I. So I feel good about that. The thing though, and I think just to dig in a little bit deeper to your great question, beyond the budget, which, you know, as we know, the bottom line is always the bottom line, and that is the studio has to make money. But beyond that, what I did find was the pressure to make sure that we created a great culture while we were shooting during COVID. And that was the biggest thing, because it was such a scary time. We had to shut down Red Notice. Then we had to come back and shoot as Delta variant was rising, and now everyone is unsure again. So I think the pressure of really creating a great culture that was empathetic, that was caring to the crew. We had 1,000 crew members. But I got to tell you, Shiv, these guys and girls who came to work every day wanting to make a great movie that was really inspiring, and I really got the best crew. And I shot 2 movies back to back. It was Red Notice and Black Adam. So Red Notice crew went to the Black Adam crew. So that crew was just incredible.
Last question, Dwayne, since we're running out of time, and since you mentioned India, you know, you've had a brush with Bollywood when you made Baywatch with Priyanka Chopra, but would you ever make a Bollywood film? Because you've got a huge, huge following, as you obviously know, here in India. Everyone knows you as The Rock first and then Dwayne Johnson. Would you ever entertain or want to be in a Bollywood film? You'd be perfect in one.
I would love that. I have always said that. I would love to figure out whatever that pathway is. Sure, absolutely. And you bring up about The Rock before Dwayne Johnson. Yeah. I was well aware of the support that I was getting as a professional wrestler. And I remember there were a couple of tours that we were preparing to go to India, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. They fell through. But I was really looking forward to that because the guys before me, like, for example, I'll mention some names here as pro wrestlers: Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret the Hitman Hart, The Undertaker. All these guys who are all my close friends would come back from India and say, "You got to go." That was the wildest, the greatest time. The crowds were crazy, and there were just like 100,000 people at these stadium shows. So that's the wrestling part of it. But in terms of Bollywood, I would love that, because I've always felt too as well that there should be some more connective tissue between Hollywood and Bollywood. Somehow, I feel like, and especially this day and age where so much of our releases are a combination of theatrical, yes, but now in streaming, where there's so much more opportunity. And with technology too. So it's just like music. Like I'm sure there's, Indian singers who I could sing with and we never have to be in the booth. There's got to be a way to converge film, right, between Hollywood and Bollywood. So that's a very long answer to say I would love that.
We'd really love to look forward to that. And thank you for answering that question so specifically. Hope it is something that will happen very soon. Thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun. All the very best, Dwayne, for whatever's coming next. We look forward to all of your work. Thank you for speaking to India today. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And thank you, India. See you guys.
Well, The Rock's millions of fans here in India are going to be hugely pleased and enthused that he wants some kind of a Bollywood connection. Here's a man who needs no introduction. Millions in India have grown up watching one of the biggest wrestlers of all time transform into one of the biggest stars. Here's the great journey of The Rock. And remember, this is a promise. The biggest stars in India and the world will always be first and exclusive here on India Today.